What intrigued me most about watches was that there's a watchmaker behind the product. There's somebody who has decided to spend their life learning a craft in order to produce this utilitarian item that tells time. So for me, my designs have always focused around making sure that the hand of the watchmaker can be seen. That the timepiece actually looks handmade. With that, I never wanted to lose sight of the reason the watch exists, which is to tell time. Even though, personally, I believe wristwatches are obsolete now that we have phones and microwaves and clocks in our car and clocks all around us. Time telling is secondary. The wristwatch needs to focus even more on the reason it exists, which is actually the passion of the watchmaker. So for me, making a watch that is very legible, but also finished to a level that is admirable for a craftsman such as a watchmaker. Using traditional materials and getting different surface finishes. These all elevate a pretty simple utilitarian item to another level. Things such as screws to hold the case back down. To me, that shows how it was assembled. And then it's a little easier to relate with the item. A snap-down case back is something that kind of hides how that was put together, which to me hides the watchmaker and hides what's important in a handmade watch. Knowing how it goes together, seeing that the watchmaker screwed down these screws and that's how the case back was put on. To me, that shows more about how and why this item was made. Whereas with that snap-down case back, it hides the watchmaker. It hides the assembly. It creates some mystery. And to me, that's exactly what I don't want to do. I want everyone that looks at the watch to think about the person that put it together and how maybe over the next couple hundred years, many generations, this watch will be taken apart and put back together by many different watchmakers because it was designed to last. Elements on the dial for time telling, I try to keep as simple as possible. I really want the watches that I make to live way beyond this generation. And time will tell, but I hope I created a bit of a timeless design, something that's hard to pinpoint in an exact spot in history. So with this watch, I looked to a lot of old gauges, things that would have been made anywhere from the 1920s through to modern day. Gauges that are sitting here in my workshop that show me hydraulic pressures on different machines, or other gauges that were pulled from airplane cockpits from 50 years ago, 60 years ago even. So pulling from all these different eras with the goal of creating a utilitarian, timeless aesthetic that highlights the watchmaker instead of hides the watchmaker. This was the goal behind all of the different polishing finishes and the assembly design of how my watches even fit together. And that was always balanced with how can I make this here in the USA? Not having established manufacturers for components, I had to make sure that anything I designed could be made by either partners here or made in my own workshop. So that dictates design a bit because I'm working with a set type of equipment for a certain component. So that limits certain flexibilities that might be available to a watchmaker in Switzerland or a watchmaker in China or anywhere else in the world. This design is dictated by where I am and where I'm trying to manufacture the components. Every single one of the watches that I make has full Arabic numerals around the dial. Even the dive watch, which Arabic numerals on a dive watch are actually quite rare. If you try to find another one, I don't know if you will be able to. It's something that I really like the design of having the actual number there instead of an index. I think for very quick legibility, the numeral is the best way to do it. So when designing and making something that is supposed to be very simple and utilitarian, I think one of the easiest ways to actually elevate that design is to use materials that can do that for you. Materials like Horween leather or Cordura canvas, stainless steel 316 that can be highly polished and also brushed, sapphire crystals. These materials help to elevate a simple design. And that, paired with the fact that there are small parts of the design that add a little intrigue and show the hand of the watchmaker, when all of that comes together, I think those elements coming together in the wristwatch actually add up to more than the individual components themselves. And in the finished product, you can really see the extra attention to detail. Some designs could attempt to add interest with complexity, which isn't really what I try to do. I try to take something simple and elevate it with adding the hand of the watchmaker, the best materials, and hopefully a timeless design in order to create something that creates a more emotional connection. Because that's what I feel when I look at my watch, is the emotional connection of an item that was made by hand that didn't even have to exist. So that means it's filled with passion. Passion for watchmaking, passion for making in general. And that, to me, is the most important part about a timepiece.